Have you ever wanted to speak English but suddenly your mind goes blank?
You know the words, you understand the question, but when it's your turn to speak, you feel nervous.
Exactly. Your heart starts beating faster. You worry about making mistakes. And sometimes you simply say, I don't know.
But what if the problem isn't your English? What if the real problem is fear?
Today, we're going to talk about how to stop feeling nervous when speaking English and how to become more confident, one step at a time.
And this isn't just a lesson. Emma and I are going to have a natural conversation, share practical ideas, and show you how you can practice in real situations.
So, if you understand English but still feel nervous when you speak, stay with us. By the end, you may realize that you're more ready to speak than you think.
Welcome back to Speak Better Daily. Let's start the conversation.
Hi, I'm Emma. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a situation where someone speaks English to you, and suddenly you forget every English word you know? You understand what they said, but your brain feels completely empty. You want to answer, but you keep thinking, what if I make a mistake? That feeling is more common than you think, and honestly, the problem may not be your English. Sometimes, you know enough English to communicate, but you're afraid of being judged. You're thinking about your grammar, your pronunciation, your accent, and what the other person might think about you. Here's the important thing. You don't need perfect English to speak English. Imagine you are talking to someone and you say, yesterday I go to the market. Maybe the correct sentence is, yesterday I went to the market, but did the other person understand you? Yes, communication happened. The mistake is not the biggest problem. The bigger problem is staying silent because you're afraid of making one. So, the first step to becoming confident is changing the way you think about mistakes. Don't see every mistake as proof that your English is bad. See it as proof that you are practicing. And there's another simple trick. Stop trying to create perfect sentences in your head before you speak. The longer you think, the more nervous you become. Start with simple English. Instead of thinking, how can I say this perfectly? Just ask yourself, how can I say this simply? For example, if someone asks, what did you do this weekend? You don't need a complicated answer. You can simply say, I stayed home. I watched a movie and relaxed. That is English. That is communication. And that is progress. The next time you feel nervous, remember this, your goal is not to impress people with perfect English. Your goal is to communicate. Speak slowly. Use simple words. Accept your mistakes. And keep going. Because confidence doesn't come before speaking. Confidence comes from speaking.
One of the biggest reasons people feel nervous when speaking English is simple. They are trying too hard to be perfect. You might know hundreds or even thousands of English words. But when you start speaking, you suddenly become afraid. You think about grammar. You think about pronunciation. You think about your accent. You think about whether the sentence sounds natural. And while you are thinking about all these things, the conversation is already moving forward. This is where many English learners get stuck. They believe they need to speak perfect English before they can feel confident. But the truth is the opposite. You become confident by speaking, not by waiting until your English is perfect. Think about a child learning to speak. A child doesn't stop after every sentence and think, was my grammar correct? They simply try. They make mistakes. Someone corrects them. They try again, and little by little, they become better. You can do the same thing. Imagine you are meeting someone for the first time and they ask, where are you from? You could spend 5 seconds thinking about the perfect answer. But why? Just say, I'm from Somalia. Simple, clear, natural. Then they ask, what do you do? You can say, I'm a university student. Then they ask, what do you like doing in your free time? You can say, I like watching movies and listening to music. You don't need difficult vocabulary. You don't need complicated grammar. You just need to communicate your idea. Another important thing is that you should stop comparing yourself to fluent speakers. When you listen to a native English speaker, they may speak quickly. They may use expressions you don't understand. Their pronunciation may sound very different from what you learned in a textbook. Then you start thinking, I will never speak like that. But that's the wrong comparison. Don't compare your speaking today with someone else's speaking after years of practice. Instead, compare yourself with who you were 1 month ago. Maybe 1 month ago, you were afraid to introduce yourself in English. Today, you can introduce yourself confidently. That's progress. Maybe before, you needed to translate every sentence from your language into English. Now, you can create some sentences directly in English. That's progress too. Confidence grows when you notice your progress. And here's something else that can completely change the way you speak. Give yourself permission to be imperfect. When you make a mistake, don't stop the entire conversation. Let's say you say, "She go to school yesterday." You suddenly realize the mistake and think, "Oh no, I said it wrong." Don't panic. Just continue. You can even correct yourself naturally. "She went to school yesterday." That's completely normal. Even fluent speakers correct themselves sometimes. The goal is not to speak without mistakes. The goal is to avoid letting mistakes control you. You also need to practice speaking when nobody is watching. This is one of the easiest ways to reduce nervousness. Stand in front of a mirror and talk for 2 minutes. Talk about your morning. Talk about your university. Talk about your family. Talk about a movie you watched. Talk about your plans for tomorrow. At first, it may feel strange. You may stop. You may forget words. You may laugh at yourself. That's okay. Do it again tomorrow. After several days, something interesting happens. Your brain becomes more comfortable producing English. And when you finally speak with another person, it doesn't feel as scary because your brain has already practiced the experience. You can also record your voice. Choose one simple question, such as, "What did you do today?" Record yourself answering for 1 minute. Then listen to the recording. Don't listen only for mistakes. Listen for improvement. Maybe your pronunciation isn't perfect, but your sentences are clearer than before. Maybe you paused a lot at first, but now you speak more smoothly. These small improvements matter. And remember something very important. Being nervous doesn't mean you are bad at English. You can be nervous and still speak. You can make mistakes and still communicate. You can have an accent and still sound confident. You can forget a word and still continue the conversation. Confidence isn't the absence of nervousness. Confidence is being willing to speak even when you feel nervous. So, the next time you have an opportunity to speak English, don't wait for the perfect sentence. Start with the words you already know. Speak slowly. Keep your sentences simple. If you make a mistake, continue. And most importantly, don't judge yourself while you're speaking. Give yourself time. Give yourself permission to learn.
Let's talk about what happens when you suddenly have to speak English. Maybe someone asks you a question, and you know the answer, but your mind goes blank. Your heart beats faster, and you start thinking, what if I make a mistake? The first thing you should do is slow down. You don't have to answer immediately. Take a small breath, think for a second, and then speak. For example, if someone asks, "What do you think about learning English?" You don't need a complicated answer. You can simply say, "I think English is very important because it helps me communicate with more people." Simple is okay. Another useful thing is to prepare some sentences before you enter situations where you may need English. If you're going to meet someone new, practice saying, "Nice to meet you. Where are you from?" If you're going to speak in class, prepare a few sentences about the topic. This preparation can make you feel much more comfortable. And don't be afraid to say, "Could you repeat that, please?" If you don't understand someone, asking them to repeat is completely normal. You don't have to pretend that you understood everything. You should also stop imagining that everyone is watching your mistakes. Most people are not thinking about your grammar. They are focused on the conversation. So instead of thinking, "Are they judging my English?" think, "What are they trying to tell me?" Focus on communication, not perfection. You can also practice difficult situations alone. If you're nervous about talking on the phone, practice phone conversations. If you're nervous about introducing yourself, practice your introduction. If you're nervous about speaking in front of people, stand in front of a mirror and speak for 2 minutes. The more you practice a situation, the less frightening it becomes. And remember, you don't have to become confident overnight. Maybe today you can speak for 2 minutes. Tomorrow, 3 minutes. Next week, you might have a real conversation without feeling as nervous. That's how confidence grows. So the next time you feel nervous speaking English, take a breath, slow down, use simple words, and keep going. You don't need to feel confident before you speak. Speaking is how you build confidence.
If you really want to stop feeling nervous when speaking English, you have to change one thing: the way you think about mistakes. Many learners believe that every mistake is embarrassing. They think if I say something wrong, people will think my English is terrible. But mistakes are not your enemy. They are part of learning. Think about how you learned your first language. You didn't speak perfectly from the beginning. You made mistakes, listened to other people, tried again, and slowly improved. English is exactly the same. So when you make a mistake, don't stop the conversation. Keep going. If you forget a word, explain it another way. If you say something incorrectly, correct yourself and continue. If you don't understand someone, simply say, "Sorry. Could you say that again?" These small actions can make you much more confident. And don't compare yourself with people who have spoken English for 10 or 20 years. Compare yourself with the person you were yesterday. Maybe yesterday you were afraid to speak for 1 minute. Today, you spoke for 5 minutes. That's progress. You should also make speaking English a daily habit. Even 10 minutes a day can make a difference. Talk about your day, your plans, your studies, your family, or anything you enjoy. The goal is not to sound perfect. The goal is to become comfortable speaking. One day, you'll notice something amazing. You'll hear a question in English, and instead of panicking, you'll simply answer. That's when you'll know your confidence is growing. So don't wait until your English is perfect. Speak now, make mistakes, learn. Try again, because confidence doesn't come from knowing every English word. Confidence comes from believing that you can keep going even when you make mistakes.